Now, let's say it plainly. There has never been a president as corrupt as Donald Trump. There is no close second in our history. Now, that is a quote from Rolling Stone magazine, but a growing number of Americans seem to be agreeing, flouting ethical rules. Hardly new to America's presidency, even if some have been more exemplary than others. But most historians agree that the behaviour of chief executives has grown noticeably worse since the early 1970s and the heyday of Richard Nixon. For Trump, accused of pushing the limits. Of course, let's talk now to our international affairs commentator, Doug Herbert, who joins me here on set. Doug, more and more, critics are calling Trump the most corrupt president ever. Why?
Yeah, and I'll give you, because he's perhaps the most corrupt president ever, sort of objectively speaking, look, historians, ethical watchdogs, politicians, including some in his own Republican Party, looking at this presidency, and to pick up Rolling Stone's commentary, which he cited, saying essentially Donald Trump is treating the presidency like his own personal ATM machine, that is a bank cash machine, using it to both line his own pockets, enrich himself and his family members, and to offer all sorts of things, from pardons, making policy decisions, offering government appointments, you name it. In return, if you have enough to pay for the privilege, you can get just about anything from this administration. That is more and more the perception based in the actual acts. The American Bar Association, which is perhaps America's top sort of attorney membership association, said that more than any other president in recent history, Trump caters to the wealthiest and most powerful, the billionaires, the CEOs of major corporations, and the extremely well-heeled and well-connected. So as long as they are willing to pay for the privilege, which is essentially what I was just saying. So all of these things, it is self-dealing. It is seen as creating an unprecedented, and I have to use the word unprecedented because, yeah, sure, we had Richard Nixon and Watergate, but we've seen nothing on the scale and scope of what is essentially a pay-to-play culture in American politics. And the thing is, Americans have almost written it off to a large extent. They become numb to it because Donald Trump himself is very outspoken about it. He doesn't even try to hide it. So it's taken as, well, if the president, is out there, not trying to run from anything, not hiding anything, I guess it's okay. That's sort of this implicit assumption. So that's what also makes it unprecedented. It's the fact that not only do you have a president both seen and, in fact, engaging in these blatant acts of ethical flouting and breaches, but you also have him doing it openly and almost flaunting it.
One of these is particularly controversial, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the $1.8 billion taxpayer dollars so-called anti-weaponization fund. I put those in quotes because that's the term used by the Trump administration. What is it? It is a fund that Donald Trump created earlier this month, his administration, as part of a settlement in a lawsuit against his own government. He sued his own government, the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, for $10 billion for allegedly leaking information about his tax returns. So he brought a lawsuit against his own government. Then his own acting attorney general, a guy named Todd Blanche, preemptively drops the lawsuit, says, let's settle. And the settlement terms are the Justice Department creates this fund in a symbolic sum, and the actual amount is $1.776 billion, 1776, get it, the year of U.S. independence, creates a fund which is, and here's where it gets tricky, try to follow me, to compensate people who claim that they were targeted by the Biden Justice Department and Democrats under Biden. What the critics say is it's essentially, this fund, a slush fund. Let's use the term slush fund, and that it is funneling taxpayer money to President Trump's allies. And perhaps most horrifically for the critics of this fund, and there are more and more of them, it is a brazen misuse of the Justice Department to do Trump's political bidding, that the money could potentially go to, ready for this one, could potentially go to the January 6th rioters. That is, the men, mostly men, who ransacked the U.S. Capitol building, violently attacked the police officers trying to defend it. They could get the money because they are perceived as politically persecuted people under the Biden administration. You can imagine it's raising eyebrows. There are lawsuits being brought against this fund, namely one of them by the police officers themselves, the Capitol police officers. But even Republicans have raised eyebrows at this. And I will note that it comes alongside another major developing scandal, which is the stock trading. A new disclosure report, an ethics disclosure report to the U.S. Office of Government Ethics shows that Donald Trump engaged in 3,600 stock transactions between January and the end of March of this year, first quarter of this year. 3,600, that's about 60 a day. You say, so what, Doug? You're allowed to engage in stocks, and you're right. Presidents are not banned from playing the stock market. They can do stock transactions, but they're also subject to personal disclosure. And it's the nature of Donald Trump's transactions. Although he says that these are not his personal trades and they're being done by a third party, they are all involving, almost all of them, big tech, big AI companies. You see the names of Intel and Palantir and Microsoft all popping up among them. And they just happen to have some suspicious timing because Donald Trump has made massive gains, up to $750 million by this ethics report estimation. Gains because he bought these stocks suspiciously, the critics would say, just before major announcements brought by his administration, such as the announcement to let NVIDIA, one of the world's biggest, most prominent chip makers, if not the biggest, sell its advanced AI chips to China. A policy decision by the Trump administration. Lo and behold, just before that, there'd been a big NVIDIA trade. So it's not just one, it's not just two, it's not just three, Stuart. Again and again, a series of these suspiciously timed transactions that critics say are now worthy of, and more than that, need to be investigated.